question.
Sure.
Okay. My question today was about workflow when you are co-writing.
Yeah.
So now that we're co-writing with more than just like different people in the classes, how do you, I don't know, do it more quickly? I feel like because we're just now starting to co-write, we're like a little clunky. Do you have any like good suggestions about, I don't know, just workflow?
Yeah.
Am I making any sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good.
First of all, what's your objective?
Oh, you mean just for the access assignments?
Okay, so you're trying to write a song
Sync.
for sync. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're wanting to co-write with one or multiple people?
Well, we have co-written with a couple different people now, and we were just trying to figure out if there's a way that we could speed up just some workflow processes as tracks are going back and forth, or I don't know. Just I thought you might have some. I wish I could be more specific, but I feel like Zion would have some good insight because you co-write a lot with a lot of different people.
I do. And I will say I don't think I have it down to a science, but I'll tell you some of the things I've discovered.
Awesome.
Okay.
One of the things is I think you can spin your wheels and waste a lot of time on a song that isn't going to go anywhere. And you need to identify right off the bat if the song has any legs. How would you do that? Yeah.
I'm just going to ask some real basic questions.
Yeah, I think part of it is, are you excited about it? If you don't have any excitement about it, it's usually an indication that you're not really that into it, or your intuition is saying this isn't going to go anywhere. Secondly, I think you need to measure it against everything you know about sync licensing. So you've been in the course long enough. You know this. Certain topics come up, certain lyrics work. You can't be too specific on certain things. You want to write a hook that it doesn't have profanity in it. There are some strengths to, like if you have woes and oohs and things like that, those often help for sync because they can be vocals in the background while words are going over the top, like the advertiser or something like that. All those things play into it. So you kind of have to measure it against, okay, everything I know about sync licensing is this. Does this song have the potential to be this? If it doesn't, stop. Don't waste any more time. Because I think we often get into co-writing situations where you're doing it out of, you're more concerned with people's feelings and following through and being loyal. And that's honorable, but the amount of time it takes to make one song actually really good is such an investment that if you're going the wrong way, it's a huge investment in the wrong direction. It's a liability.
Yeah. Yeah. And in the end, it doesn't work out anyway.
Right.
Often.
Right. And so you want to
give it a lot of energy and then it just dies off.
Sure. And that happens a lot. And I think that the trick is you want to minimize your liability. You want to find the projects that have the most potential. Now there's no guarantee on any of this. So if even if you think that everything is perfect and everything's right, you may not ever get a license for that song. So there's no guarantees. So at some point you have to take the risk. But you want to be part of projects that you think have life. So that was the first thing. I would say your excitement on that project, as well as what intellectually about what works for sync. Are those two things there? If they're both there, okay, then you're jumping into it. And then the next thing I would think that's really important to me is how well you work with somebody. I have worked with people that are brilliant that I won't ever work with again because they're hard to work with. They're too inflexible about going back and forth, which is, especially when in music, I mean, that's such a subjective art form, and you have, I'm sure you've experienced this, you can get attached to songs, and we all do it. But when you're writing for sync, you have a very specific objective. This isn't just a passion project to express yourself. It's great if it can become that also, but your main objective is I'm trying to write a song that's perfect, that is me, it's an expression of me, but is perfect for sync license. And so I've got to meet all these different kind of these objectives. So this is kind of it's almost like a cerebral process, meaning it's very heady. It's not so much emotional. So if you're working with a co-writer that's extremely emotional about it, I would say just be careful. That you may still want to work with them, but you've got to.
I experienced people getting mad over me suggesting changing one line in the lyrics.
Oh yeah.
And getting real mad.
Oh no, yeah.
So
and I think,
and then for me it's a no.
Right. I actually think if you have a co-write that is successful, it's kind of an amazing thing, because there's so many dynamics at play that if you can make it work, it's an amazing accomplishment that you found somebody that your creativity worked with well enough, your emotions, the way you communicate work with, your workflow, your disciplines all came together to make this happen. And I guess what I'm saying is it's hard to get all those things lined up. So I go into it sort of not expecting. I don't expect it to be perfect. I expect when I go into a co-write, I sort of expect it to fall apart. I hate to say it. I do, but I'm okay with that. I go in with it as, hey, let's try this. And if it's working, we're going to take another step. And if that's working, we're going to take another step. But the chances of all those things lining up is kind of hard. There's so many.
Do you say that explicit beforehand?
No, I don't. Because I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to turn people off either. I want to.
No, but sometimes saying it in certain ways might be helpful.
Exactly. So what I
manage expectations, they call it.
Managing expectations. So several things I would also suggest. One is don't start a co-write unless you both have some hook ideas. Because when you sit there and stare at each other and go, okay, let's write a song, you got to have something to start with. And I've done this before. I've made this mistake where you're like, okay, you get on a call or you get on a video and you're like, all right, let's write something. And you're like, do you have anything? No. Do you have anything? No. Okay, well, now what do we do? Well, the real answer to that, in my opinion, is turn off the video, hang up the call, and go try to write a hook first. And so when you come into the co-write, you've got one or two hook ideas. Now, when I say hook, I mean a melody. And go ahead, Sim.
Melody before lyrics, or?
Well, that's the way I work. Some people don't work that way. I work that way. I have to have a melody idea or just a hook. So what I'll do is I'll brainstorm, let's say it's summer, okay? And so my topic's summer, so I'll just do a Google Doc, just like Kathy says, just say anything I can. In fact, I use voice command. I hit a button on my computer, and I'll just start talking. Yes. And it transcribes it for me so I don't have to type, because I can get more thoughts out that way.
Apple.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And you could do it with your phone or whatever, but just use a transcribe function to do that. And then after I get a lot of what I'm trying to say out, I'll go through and I'll find something in there that feels a little bit original. Now, right now, we're talking a little bit about writing. Well, I guess this whole subject is about songwriting, but there's a producer class, but heck, we'll talk about it anyway. So I'll find
producing songs.
I'll find a phrase like the summer's coming. Maybe that's my phrase. I'm like, I don't even know of a song that says the summer's coming. And that feels like something I would say conversationally, just naturally just say. So I'm going to say, the summer's coming, the summer's coming. So I'll start, once I find a phrase or cliche or something like that, and I'm very leery about cliches. If you're going to use a cliche, then change it a little bit. Like if looking at the song, yes. The Bold song by the Highfields, they say in that song, go big. So the phrase, the cliche is go big or go home. But they say go big or go bold. So they changed it a little bit and it makes it interesting. If you just use a normal cliche, it's a little boring. It's so predictable. It's hard to get away with that. And I would stay away from cliches unless you're going to change them. But find an original way to say something. Start saying it. And as you're talking, what I'll do is I'll take one of my grooves that I hope you guys are making, take a groove and just start playing it and find one that fits that phrase. Okay, summer is coming, summer is coming. So I hit play on the groove and I'll just start singing and finding a melody and then a little hook where that fits. Might be like, summer is coming. That might be it. Or maybe, summer is coming, summer is coming. I mean, I'm being silly, but I'm just saying there's different ways of phrasing that and how you want to do it. So you find something that works, record it, capture that moment, and then when you go into your co-write, you've got something to start with. If you're both trying to come up with those little hooks while you're on the phone with each other or in person, however you do your co-writes, I think it's a lot more intimidating because you're trying to be creative and get into your head at the same time you're trying to express it. And you don't want to do both of those things at the same time. Just go into your head for a while. Go into your closet, go into your studio, wherever you go to write, and come up with those hooks that are pure creativity. And then when you go to talk to somebody, now you're just taking those ideas and expressing it in such a way that you're getting it out and seeing what they think of it. But then the next point is you need to be very open to the fact that it sucks, because it may be totally horrible. And if you're working with somebody, they're going to either, if they don't like it, or they might be able to show you why it's not good. And you need to be open to that.
Yeah, you should just be able to say such things to each other.
You should.
But that's not the first time you co-write. It's not gonna happen.
No, it's not.
But if you co-write with someone more often, then you get more comfortable, and then you start saying more from, no, that's not the good. Let's try something new.
Right, and you want to be nice and respectful about it too, of course.
Yes.
Yeah, and since we're talking like the production side, I think my question was more like on the production side, like how much time do you budget in that going back and forth? Mm-hmm. I feel like our co-writes have gone really well with the person we're co-writing with. Mm-hmm. It's just it ends up we get pushed to the right when it's due, and I was trying to just figure out what the budgeting my time better, or time to figure out it's going to take this long for writing. It's in general going to take this long for production. That was more of my question.
Oh, okay.
Maybe you can't make it a formula like that. But I was just, because every time has been very, very different.
Yeah. And as a producer, every time for me has been really different.
Okay, so there's no way. Okay, maybe it's just an unanswerable question.
I wish there was a good answer for that, but it's very hard to it's very hard to schedule creativity, and production is very creative. It's very, very creative. And so it may take me sometimes 5 minutes to throw a verse production together. I mean, not 5, maybe an hour. Okay. So I have a guitar and I've got a bass line, and it's like, dude, that production's pretty much done there. And then sometimes it takes a week for me to figure that out, because I try a little this and then I try a little that, and that doesn't work, and
and you have to walk away from it sometimes, too.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, what I try to do is I allocate time. So I just say, instead of my goal today to come up with that verse production, if my goal is the end result, I'm going to probably not do it well, or it's going to kind of shooting myself in the foot. But if my goal is I'm going to allocate time to this, so I'm going to allocate a full hour every day for a week for this verse production for the verses.
Okay.
Now I've blocked out the time, and I'm hopefully done in a week. It might be done in a day. I don't know, but I've blocked out just time periods. And then after the week is over, then I can reassess and say, okay, I didn't necessarily hit the goal of being done, but I did hit the goal of allocating time every day toward it.
Okay,
and
that's
that
good.
Sometimes is almost more important. It's almost more helpful because it frees your brain into not feeling like there's a deadline. That deadline sometimes can jeopardize your progress.
That's true.
You're saying, hey, all I have to do is just concentrate on this for an hour a day and then see what happens.
So in general, like if you were writing a song for sync from very beginning to very end, do you have a guideline of like how many hours total, or you don't think of it that way?
No, and this is one thing I'm probably not the best person to ask, and I'll be honest with you, I'm a little slow compared to some people.
Okay.
And the reason why is I lean on perfectionism more than I should. I'm trying to work on this because I get very tied to, hey, I want that to be really good. I don't want to put out anything bad. I want everything I put out to at least I tried really hard to make it good. That doesn't mean it always is good, but so for me, I do have kind of soft deadlines. Like I'm trying to get an EP out this month for fan fiction, and it's a soft deadline because I don't have an actual day. My goal is just overall, I need to get this done. I'm in the final stages of it. It's just a 4-song EP. They're all the songs are written. They're all produced. I'm just trying to finalize some production and get them. I'm pitching them over actually to have them professionally mixed and mastered, and to get that done takes work. So anyway, I'm getting caught up.
You don't master yourself.
I don't. No.
Okay.
Well, for some songs I have that are not. If there's songs that I'm just putting out for friends or for family, or for instance, I just did a funk song for it's a software instrument company called Ample Sound, and they came out with a new guitar, and they asked me to do a demo for it. So I did the whole demo, and I mixed and mastered it myself and threw it to them. And it's just for their demo process for their website, but it's not going to go on a Spotify or anything like that. So anyway, yeah, to answer your question, I do kind of soft deadlines, and I try not to get too caught up in being too rigid on that stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's good. It's just we're like starting this new, like this is new for us, and so we're just trying to figure out how other people do it.
Yeah. Just
to get some ideas, and some things you said in that was really good. So it was very helpful.
Good. I think seriously, I think it's very critical to find people you have momentum with, that you can just start putting stuff out. If things are always dragging to get it going and it feels like sluggish work, you may want to rethink it and find somebody else you might work with better. Or the problem is you. You know, that's always the other part of the equation, is if all your co-writes suck, it might be you.
No, well, I'm just trying to figure out, like,
I didn't mean you specifically.
No. Like, we work better towards the end of the month, right before the deadline.
Yeah.
So is it worth it to even try it at the beginning of the month? I was just trying to figure that out. That's all.
Yeah. What do you think on that?
Aaron and I are split. Like, he thinks it's good because we at least get the ideas of the song at the beginning of the month, and we can kind of like just get it in our minds. And I'm like, we work better towards the end of the month, just work to the end of the month. So I was just trying to figure it out, but maybe there's no right or wrong answer.
Some people work better against the deadline.
That's true.
Yeah, I do.
I definitely need a deadline.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Yeah. For me, I don't work well against a deadline. I feel rushed and it stresses me out. So I actually like less of a deadline. But I have to have a deadline. There's got to be an end point. Otherwise, I'll work on it for 5 years and go, this isn't good, and I'm still working on it. And you got to get shit out. You got to get shit out.
Yeah.
Even
so
if
I think things are going well. I'm just trying to tweak it. That's all.
Cool.
And just get other people's like ideas of how you guys do it. So.
Yeah. And how many co-writes are you involved in right now?
This is our third one. We did a February, March, April. So we've done 3 in a row.
Okay. And are you in,
for the sync, for the access class?
Is it the same person each time you're co-writing with, or are you working with different people?
Oh, it's 3 of us. It's the same people.
Oh, okay.
It's the same people.
Well, good. It sounds
sometimes it's 2 out of the 3. Sometimes it's 3 out of the 3. So yeah, and it made me feel better when you said a lot of co-writes go badly. So it made me feel like, oh, we're okay.
Oh yeah. If you guys have already put out 3 songs, you've got something there.
Yes.
Co-writes are hard. They're hard. I think, in my opinion, I think Sonnet and Kathy make it sound a little easier than it is. Like you're just going to get together and sparkles are going to fly. And it's like, oh, there's a lot of personalities. There's a lot of creative differences, and you've got to find people that you can talk to and that they don't interrupt you constantly when you're trying to talk. And I mean, there's a lot of elements. It's just like a friendship. There's just certain people you don't want to hang out with.
I did a lot of I live in Holland, so I used to write Dutch lyrics, and I have done tons of Dutch co-writes, Dutch lyric co-writes, and it's once you find people you can work with, hold on to them.
Yes.
If you find someone you can write with and it goes well, then it's a precious thing.
It is. Well said, Sam.
Yes, it's just like Elton John and Bernard Chopin and all those Rodgers and Hart and all those things.
And what's cool is when you find somebody that you really compliment. Like, for instance, I love melody and I love coming up with hooks and grooves. That's my emphasis. But going into the verses and actually writing out all the words, I've gotten to where I can do it, but it's kind of drudgery for me. I don't care for that part. So I like to work with a co-writer that really likes to just write lyrics and come up with cool ways of saying things, and they can kind of pour themselves in those areas. And I can get back to sort of writing these melody hooks and arrangement and big pieces. I like sort of the big stuff. So you find kind of somebody that hey, I'm better at this and you're better at that. Let's get together and think about that.
Okay, awesome. That was super helpful.
Yeah. Jamila, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. I'm going to unmute you. Are you there?
Oh, yeah, I'm here.
Okay. I can barely hear you.
I haven't spoken on any of these yet.
Sorry, I can't hear you. I can hear you that you're talking.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, very, very, very quietly. Are you on a computer or
I'm on a computer, but let me, I'm on one of these external Bluetooth speakers, so let me take it off.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, there you are.
Okay.
Now we hear you.
All right. Hi, everybody.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Good.
Good. Just having breakfast.
Yeah.
It's so strange. I just had dinner and you're having breakfast.
Sim is in the Netherlands.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Where are you, Jamila?
I'm in LA.
Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
It's Jamila, but some people call me Jamila. It's fine.
Jamila. I want to pronounce it correctly.
All right. I
have an interesting name too, and everybody pronounces it wrong. Every time they meet me, they say Zion, and I'm like, no, don't say Zion. Say Zion, like you would say lion. It's spelled the same.
Yeah, that's what I said from the beginning. Like a lion from Zion.
Yeah, exactly.
I was saying Zion, so I'm glad I'm going to get it right now.
That's all right. Well, the movie The Matrix ruined it because they had the city of Zion, and they all pronounced it that way in that movie.
It's like in the Bob Marley song.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Bob Marley. And do you remember?
Bob Marley said it right.
Hill. What was her name? Lauryn Hill. She had a son named Zion, and she wrote a song about him.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah. What are you working on right now?
I'm working through the courses. Trying to get. I'm in the setup phase. I mean, I've been recording some vocals from home, but I'm looking to upgrade that because I want to be able to do some serious vocal recording from home.
Yeah.
Right now I've got an Audio-Technica mic and what is it? A mobile pre or whatever it is. Mobile. What is that called?
M-Audio?
Oh, M-Audio. M-Audio mobile pre.
Okay.
So I'm using those and looking to upgrade. So
cool. Well, we have a lot of people in this course that have lots of very strong opinions and experience on what has worked for them on microphones and pre's. It kind of depends on your budget, of course. You kind of, unfortunately, with audio gear, you sort of get what you pay for the most part. Not always, but most of the time. So, do you want some advice on that, or do you have somebody helping you with that?
I mean, advice would be great. I've gotten some input already. It's it's just kind of hard to know. To be psychic, I guess, and know exactly what's going to work.
Yep.
So, but yeah, some advice would be great.
Okay. Well, what budget are you kind of thinking of for a microphone?
For a mic?
Yeah.
I was looking at about $500-600 for the mic. Maybe spending, I don't know, $1,200 for everything. Another,
interface
and all of that. So,
well, right off the bat, I can tell you one of the coolest things, and I'm not sure if you've gotten into the gear. There's some videos on gear that you'll see here pretty soon in the course. But okay. Let me just give you a quick background real quick. And stop me if I'm saying anything that you know a lot about. I don't mean to insult any intelligence here. You're an intelligent woman, I can tell.
I doubt you're going to say anything I know.
All right. Well, so when I first started getting into this, I bought an interface. In fact, I have it in a box just on the other side of the room. There's this giant interface. This is back in early thousands. And it's got like 8 or 9 inputs in the back and 8 or 9 outputs. And I was I'm a drummer by, that was my original instrument that I have the most training in. So I wanted to record drums. And I needed all these inputs. Okay. Well, I started finding out after 5 or 6 years that recording drums is not my forte. It is very hard to do. And I don't have the right acoustical space for it. Long story short, I canned it. I got rid of it. That interface was too clunky. It was too big. And now I can't even sell it because it's one of these interfaces that has a data card. You got to put in a big stand-up desktop computer. So I ended up getting I think it was an M-Audio was my first one after that. And I started realizing the power of having just a little interface. You don't need a big interface. Now, the main thing an interface is doing, and you're going to hear this a lot, is called A to D conversion. What that means is analog information turned into digital information. So digital information is inside your computer. Are you working with a desktop or a laptop?
A laptop.
Okay, so your laptop is all digital. It's got digital components, meaning it uses ones and zeros to make everything. So it takes information from the outside world, like your voice when you're recording into a microphone. It's taking that audio information, and which is analog meaning kind of, without getting into the technical, it's like waveforms that are pulsating through a signal, like in like electric guitar is an analog cable. So that's coming through into an interface, and that interface is transforming that information and turning it into digital information and then sending it over to your computer. That A to D conversion is vital. The way your interface does that is what gives it the quality it is. So you can have a real cheap interface that gets by. Like your sound card in your computer right now that you're using to be on this call is doing A to D conversion. It's recording, it's taking your voice, changing it to digital information, putting it into my computer, then it's coming out of my computer and changing it back into audio and for my ears to hear you. So we have A to D conversion already in our computer, but it's cheap. It's not real. It's great for a Zoom call, basically. It's not good for recording audio. So your interface, its primary objective is doing that A to D conversion in such a way that's at a really high quality. Okay. Now, your interface also does other things. It also does D to A conversion. So it's taking digital information. When you hit play and you're playing iTunes or from your DAW, whatever you're recording, and that information's coming out of the, whether it's USB or FireWire, coming out of your computer into your interface, and that interface is transforming it into audio information now, or analog information, which is audio, which goes to your speakers, and that's how you hear things. So it's, again, it's taking audio, analog information, turning it into digital when you're recording, and then when you hit play, it's taking digital information, turning it back into analog information for audio. That process, you get what you pay for. So if you buy a really cheap, most M-Audio interfaces, they're not bad, but they're not one of the better ones usually, unless they've changed in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And again, for what you've done up to this point, it probably has been perfect. But if you're trying to now upgrade into a higher quality, you're going to need something better than that.
Yeah.
So that A to D conversion needs to be better. Okay, so that's the first piece of that. The second piece of it is your interface also does several other things too. One, it plays music out of it to your speakers, but it also plays music to your headphones. So you want a good headphone control. Some interfaces have 2 headphone ports or even more, but most interfaces only have 1 headphone port.
Yeah.
Mine, I use the, I wonder if I have it right here. I use this thing called the Universal Audio. Let me just grab it real quick. Hold on just a second.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just moved back to this other house, so I haven't set up my. So here's my interface. This is made by Universal Audio, and they're one of the
cool.
Yeah, they're one of the better interfaces. And this one, I think, is about $800, but they just came out with a little one that's just as good. It doesn't have a couple of the features on it, but it's only about $400 or $500, and it's fantastic. It's called the Aero, the Universal Audio Aero.
Okay. I've seen that one.
What's that?
Oh yeah, I've seen that one. UA Aero. Okay.
Yeah, but notice it only has 1 port for headphones. So what I have to do is whenever I record, I have to come out. Show and tell here. I come out into a little headphone port, and the reason I have to have that is because this allows me to have 4 headphone ports on it. So that if I have other people in my studio, if I'm recording somebody, which I don't sing myself on most of my stuff, I always have a singer I hire, and when I bring them in, they've got to have their own headphone mix. Their headphones might be at a different gain level than mine, which means they may want to turn theirs up and down. And I don't want it to blast my ears. So anyway, if your interface only has 1 headphone port, you're going to probably need a headphone amp. These are cheap. This is like $30. They're not very much. Okay. Just keep that in mind. A couple other things. So the great thing about this interface that makes it different from a lot of other interfaces is that this is also a computer. This has a built-in computer that has effects in it. And when I run effects using the onboard effects in this, it's not taxing against my DAW, because your DAW only has a certain amount of CPU and RAM that it can make your music be heard. And if you start running a bunch of effects, you're going to start making it really, it starts taxing your DAW and your computer to where you'll start getting stuttering and some weird issues when you're playing back. The great thing about this is it's running those effects, the reverbs and distortion and compression, it can run them inside, but only the effects that you buy for this, okay? So you have to buy specific ones. But here's the thing. The effects that these come with, whenever you buy a Universal Audio interface, it usually comes with 4 or 5 plugins, they call them. And those plugins, you get to choose which ones you want, and they are emulations. So they're emulating very, very expensive hardware. So for instance, there's a compressor that I love called an 1176. It's an old compressor. It's been around since the 70s and 80s, and they're still used today because they have a quality of sound that it kind of gives it a quality, a colorization, they call it. Well, they've made a software version of that built inside of this that you can run and download into this, and it sounds as if you're running your music outside of your computer through an 1176 and back into your computer, and this sounds amazing.
Very cool.
Yeah, so the reason I like Universal Audio, and I'm a huge fan of their stuff, and I've gone through about 5 or 6 different companies. I did Steinberg for a while. I did Universal Audio, or M-Audio. I did I've done a Behringer. I've done 2 different ones.
What's your opinion on Steinberg?
Which one? What are you asking? Which interface I had?
Just your general opinion on Steinberg.
I think they're a pretty good interface. They're
Yes.
quite good. Yeah. They usually, I think I had the U22 when I had it, but I think they have good ADD conversion. They're not going to have that running the software inside of this, the thing that Universal Audio does so well.
No. Yes, they don't have the same software, but they also have software inside of it.
Yes.
I have the U242, and it
Okay.
has a built-in effects processor,
Yes.
and I can use it. I use it mainly when recording people to put a delay on the reverb on the headphones and things like that.
Yeah. So I
I don't use it for the recording itself.
Sure. Yeah, and it's not bad. It's not bad at all. The thing about the Universal Audio ones is that it has emulations of, for instance, do you know what an SSL console is? It's a big older console. They're like $40,000 for these big studio consoles with faders.
Mm-hmm.
Well, those have a certain sound to them. Well, you can get that sound in here. So you can take the sound of a huge console and have it inside here. It's not just a plug-in of a preamp, but it's the plug-in emulation of an API or an SSL or a Neve console.
Can you hear the difference, son?
Yeah, I can. Yep.
Is it a big difference?
It's one of those things that you don't notice that big of a difference on the just one track, but when you start putting it on a bunch of tracks, it starts to notice a bigger and bigger difference. And it of course is all dependent on how well you know how to use the equipment too. If you're,
Yes.
you could throw it on something and do it wrong, and it'll sound horrible. So you have to know how to use it. But I use 2 pieces of software in mine. I use an API console strip. It's just a channel strip. Let me show you what that looks like real quick if you're curious.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So I'm going to share my screen here.
Yes.
Let's do desktop. Yeah. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Do you see this plug-in here? It says Analog 1, Insert 1.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the console that is part of that's the software program for my interface. Every interface is going to have a software console for it, okay, where you have a fader and you can control the inputs and outputs and mute buttons. Well, this one you can load different plugins onto it. And this one in particular is a channel strip of an API Vision console. Let me just show you what API Vision console looks like, okay?
Okay.
You can sleep on them.
Yeah.
They're that big.
All right, so this is an API.
Oh, okay. Wow.
They're enormous. I mean, it's a huge these are called consoles and this is like 50 input tracks and faders, and each one of these channels, each one of the channel strips where you'd plug a guitar into or a voice, has a certain flavor to it. It's like it's almost like it has its own colorization to it, they call it. So when you...
I used to work with one like those.
Yeah. And they're very expensive. So what I'm doing is I'm actually running, when I throw this on here on a track, I have a gain knob, this would be my preamp area. Then I can run it through a filter if I turn that on, so like a high pass or low pass filter if I wanted to. Then I have a gate, which is if I wanted to put a gate on. I usually don't use these though. I sometimes use the compressor here. This is a compressor limiter, and then a final EQ area before it comes out of the channel strip over here. Okay. And it oftentimes all I have is I'm just using this gain knob is all I'm doing, and it gives it gives a colorization to my sound. Now, this also kind of needs to be paired with a microphone you choose. I love the AKG 414, I think it's called. Okay. Which is a very common microphone used in most studios that you see all the time. It looks kind of like this.
Right, yeah. I'm familiar with that one.
Yeah, and in fact, Laura in our class just bought one, and it's just a great condenser microphone. Now, you can talk to some people like in our class, like Josh Doyle or Ozzy in our class has hundreds of microphones, and they really know microphones. I found 2 microphones that work really well. This one is my condenser mic that I use for vocals, and then I have a 421 Sennheiser that I use. This one here is that I recorded all the all the videos you're hearing in the class is recorded with this. This is just a standard.
I love that one.
Yeah, and they're often used for drums. They're used for horns and things like that. I think they sound great just talking into, just for vocal, just a voice.
Are you familiar with the Slate Digital ML1?
Yes.
That's one that my producer had suggested. He'd actually suggested a bundle. It's a little bit more than I want to spend, but I might go in that direction just because I think it'll be worth it.
Yep. They're the other company I was going to say that does almost the same thing that Universal Audio does. So you can when you get a bundle with them, you can get in fact, you can pay it like a monthly fee and have any plugins of theirs, anything you want. I think it's like $30 a month. But their stuff also emulates very high-end hardware. So if you have somebody talking to you about that and helping you with the Slate microphones, I would definitely listen to him because it's fantastic gear.
Okay.
Like this one here, the Slate Digital ML1.
Yeah.
So it's basically a very flat response microphone, but paired with its interface that I think pair it with, you can plug in emulators of really very, very high-end sounding microphone emulators, preamp emulators, condenser, channel strip emulators, and you get those sounds of being in a really nice recording studio. So I'm a big fan of Slate. I don't have their equipment because I started with Universal Audio, but it's almost the same. It's the same type of thing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
He also had suggested for an audio. I'm looking at his email now. It said microphone, the Slate Digital ML1, and then preamp Slate Digital VMS 1, and then the audio interface, the UAD Aero.
Yes. So he's recommending the Aero, which is the little brother to what I just showed you here. As the interface. That's this one. This is only $500 now. Or if you do, by the way, if you do end up getting any of this, talk to my man Kyle Maloney.
Okay.
And I can send you his email over at Sweetwater. If you get it through Sweetwater, which is a great online store. It's kind of like Guitar Center, but it's an online store. But their customer service is amazing. And they know about this class, and if they can give you a discount, they will.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so definitely talk to them about it. Tell them you're part of this class, and if they need to contact me to verify that, they can. I don't think they would, but but definitely if you buy it through them, I mean, I don't care who you buy it from, but if you do, you might get a little bit better price than that.
Okay.
Especially if you're bundling several things together. So if you get this plus that Slate microphone, that type of thing.
Okay. Cool.
Hey guys, there is a class with Ari starting right now, and I want to make sure that if you guys want to get on that we close up
Yes.
the class.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool.
Zion,
Yeah.
do you really believe Ari is going to start on time?
Oh, probably unlikely, but just in case.
But
Yeah. All right. Well, cool. Thank you so much for all your input.
hey,
You bet, Jamil.
Yeah, I feel better about all.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Good to meet you too. Good to see you,
too.
Sam.
I
Take care, guys.
All right, have a good day.
All right. Bye-bye.